Good morning.
Oh, man. It's such an honor to have you back. The legend in the industry of electronic distribution.
Okay, I've told him to stop doing that, so you need to stop doing this legend. Because I'm not sure what legend means anymore, unless we have a whole session on defining what legend means.
Well, we can get there too.
Oh,
if you have a computer,
anyway.
Should we Google the Google? No, but as I say, why I call it legends, because the influence and, as I said, the experience of people that you know in the industry. I mean, you go back so far, it's like you understand it, you've been there, you've seen the industry change in electronics distribution, represented manufacturing, you've been all there, and the wisdom that you share with everybody is priceless.
I think it's about everybody sharing with each other, right?
Oh.
So.
Well, you always ask the questions. Like, at the end of the day, you asked a lot of questions to learn that knowledge, so you were very curious.
Yeah, and at ECIA all the time, when I would go to ECIA meetings, executive conference, it was kind of a standing running joke, Jesus, Cholas' hand's going up again first, whatever. But yeah, you always have to ask questions. Because I don't have all the answers,
Of course.
But it's the questions that you ask. And I think everybody has become much more willing to engage, there's so many new things happening dynamically in this business, right? Everything.
Everybody's grown. I mean, since you've been on here, I think it was about 6-7 months ago.
It could have been, yeah. I think.
You're on the first one. So how's it been? How's everything going since then? I mean, a lot still has changed the last 6-7 months.
It has, and it still is. I'm still trying to figure out where all those changes are continuing, because they are. But things are going good.
Mm-hmm.
Big Zeta has been, performing, I believe, and from what I understand from the customers, fairly well. You're a customer also, and you do make a point to make sure that we constantly earn that right to be a.
We're doing our best.
Yeah,
filling out those comment cards.
But things are doing well. I mean, we're getting good feedback. I think what's interesting is that all the changes and dynamically that occur in the market with these models, be it a channel, a distributor, or a component manufacturer, we've got to pivot immediately with every one of those model changes, evolutions, and occurrences. So we've been able to stay on pace. So I'm very happy for that. We're in the right direction. We keep pivoting when need to be, right? And that's worked out very well for us right now.
From the beginning let's go from the beginning of the pandemic to the middle to currently where we are 1 year in fully after the pandemic started. How has the basis of the model of Big Zeta changed? How has it transformed to the digitalization and then giving that product to your customer and the product shifted, product focus?
Okay, good question. You always seem to nuance a question a little differently, even though it's been asked before many times by other ways, right? But no, that's a good one. That's a good way to do it. So Big Zeta's model, in its most simplest form, right, is to help people, distributors, manufacturers, very easily digitally transform themselves, right? Ultimately, accomplishing that digital footprint that everybody so desires right now. For the life of me, why they didn't think about this 2 or 3 years ago is beyond me, but that's okay. We've all come to a united consensus in the industry. So with that, every time we engage with a new customer, they may think, I really need to have my on-site search working better. It doesn't do this. Within a half hour of conversation, it has evolved into 7 or 8 other things digitally that they had no idea or didn't have a overwhelming awareness that this is affecting everything you're doing, and it's got to be corrected, and you can correct it. It's not going to break the bank, there's ways to do things. So we've had to learn an in-depth knowledge expansion in the entire new technical stacks that are being assembled, right? Whether it's a CRM, it's a PIM, any of the architectural structures that you have to have for your web environment or operationally. So those are always being added on, and there's a lot of them out there. And fortunately, our expertise in development and engineering, we have to stay on top of those. Yeah. Do you have do you know this platform versus the other one? And how do I work with that, right? So that's forced us to expand our personnel knowledge base on dev and engineering. And then with that, you also have this great awareness now by customers that I want to have an identity better known of the persona on my site. What does that mean? Now we've had Big Zeta is forced to understand and provide persona navigation, buyer journey, and all of that conversation. There's nuances to that. We've got to build technology assets that allow that to happen more efficiently for companies. So all of this has happened in the last 12 months.
Yeah, breaking down that tech stack from the beginning. Let's go from there, from the beginning, because with all the new clients, you've had existing clients and new clients coming in, and everybody is there to solve, they want you to solve a problem for them. They're trying to get more exposure. They want better e-commerce. They want more, content marketing, whatever it is. And what is it that you found through the last year of some of the one or two or three biggest challenges that you face, that the methodology of thought, like, okay, I want this, I want this, I want this, and take me here. I want to go from A to Z instantly. But the leadership or the mind, they don't understand the process through.
Okay. And I think this is scalable to any model, right? So it doesn't matter if you're, $10, $15 million company, or if you're 15, 20 billion. Everything is essentially the same in terms of when those kind of questions are asked. Most prevalent is the unawareness of what my technology stack actually is supposed to do. What am I missing? Now, I don't know if this has been because questions were never asked, and I do think that we sit back on our laurels in this industry quite often, and what's good is good enough. I would say, one of the things I appreciate about you, Rob, and there's others out there that kick the can way down the road into other freeways, and constantly challenging. So with that being said, this new emergence of challenging, my technology stack, my ERP existence and data sets that I have, or do I, what have you, that's come to the forefront. So people are asking the very basic questions. Am I getting the most out of my technology stack today that we invested lots of money into? Are we extracting from that and getting performance? Generally, the question is no, because they generally don't know what it should be doing. And which opens up a whole different realm of conversation. Why don't we know? Well, let's explore that. It's been a consulting line for us to help them understand what's available and how to extract from it. Then you got to connect the pipes. Then you also got to figure out, do you have the personnel, the manpower, to be able to work with this? And that's another revelation. So it's understanding the tech stack, understanding that all of a sudden we don't have the manpower intellectually, coding, dev guys and gals and programmers to do this and build the technology connections to capitalize on all the tens of millions of dollars I just invested in my tech stack. That's an awareness. So it's basic conversations, but they're good to have. The consumer market, B2C, has known this for a long time, and they've exploited all of these tech stacks and the marketing stacks that are available. So they've done a good job. And that's now finally spilling over to us. So I think it's the tech stack knowledge. It's what am I missing that I should be getting? Are we staffed? That's the three big things.
How about the gap between sales and marketing? That why I say that is, I think in the past, marketing just does its own job and disconnected from sales. They don't understand the whole purpose of sales marketing or content marketing or through the website journey. The sales don't understand how the website works. And are those some of the challenges you face going into a customer or client to be able to educate them through that process?
Yeah, it is a problem. It is a problem. I don't even know why we have this problem anymore. Where sales and marketing are separate and agnostic to each other. That's silly. It's just silly. In fact, I was talking to Dave Loftus at ECIA the other day. We talked about that a little bit. That should just be something that's been moved on and dealt with. And I think what's going to force that more so for those people that still want to hold back those isolated entities, digitally now, digital tools, digital technology is very easy now to force these two entities together, and they're codependent. That's another revelation that I think, you say, hey, Cholas, what's been going on, this bubbling up new? It's that. Is being able, how do you it's conflicting realities at the moment. You've got these companies that this is still people business, which I believe. So, I say that all the time. People buy things companies don't. Might be automated, but somebody's got to push the button. But you've got these companies where sales and marketing are isolated, yet you have these, and they possess all the ability, technically, to feed each other cohesively to understand what each other's doing with the data that they can gather off their digital existence, right? And they just now are starting to realize, I could do that. Now, what does that mean to sales? Everybody is starting to awaken to buyer journey, persona identification. Okay, that's basically what it all means. It means, who's my customer and what are they all about, right? I could face-to-face deal with that, but digitally it's more of a likelihood that we'll have that relationship with the customer.
You bring that up is through the end of the day, it's data. And I think it's the educating the marketing team and the sales team of that data with now the new models of API and SaaS and all that of the integration of tools. And that's what I think clients even coming, revelation for me the last year honestly has been all of that API and SaaS and how it's used to be able to run data and find the buyer journey. What are the process? How do they go to the website? How the marketing comes in, it feeds in. Where does it go to the sales? It feeds the sales through the CRM system. How do they touch that? What touch points are there? What are they looking for? And that data it's priceless really to understand. And I think
it's there.
It's there. And it's just not being.
It's always been there.
And that's that separation gap between sales and marketing is marketing gets that data, but doesn't share it to sales before. And it wasn't vice versa. There's that gap that's just totally different entities is that they need to be converted. And the education of it is the toughest part because some people are fixed into their mindsets are fixed. And I think the education of the successful old school marketing teams now with the new school digital era, how do you change that mindset? Because people have fear of the unknown and fear of change, fear of digitalization, that the system can't do a better job than a person can. And these are the, as I said, the AIs. The AI can't think for me and do this, but it's just helping you, assisting you to quantify, in a qualitative system to quantify the result.
So that, to me, that conjures up the notion, I think a lot of people too, that people that have moved towards a more digital existence, because you just have to. I mean, it's not arguable anymore. So, but you also have to start looking at how do I humanize that digital existence, right? What am I going to be like? What does that mean? Because at the end of the day, if I go to a website, I want to find my things easy. I want the whole experience just to be easy, and that's pretty much what I've been able to, experience on my own, whether it's with Amazon or other, places that I do go. But that humanization of the digital engagement, marrying the two, that's now a real conversation, right? And I think you were sort of spot on about the, the buyer journey and the persona identification. Once you start having that understanding and knowledge, right? And you use APIs or RPAs or any of the technology ability out there, you start to understand, I know what Rob's been looking for. If Rob comes back to my site, I think Rob wants to know that my site knows that he was there last, here's where you were, right? Even that, right? So everything leads into the ability, digitally, how do I know, what's your intent? That's a conversation that everybody's been wanting to have, but it's now on the more forefront because technology and the tools, the tech stack and marketing stack enables to understand some of the intent, API, machine learning, right? And I think there's going to be a whole lot of companies that once they start to embrace this and build out this data, the next wave of now what do I do? Because what you used to do in marketing may not matter exactly the same now that you know all this new. You have this awareness about who your users are and what they do when they're with you digitally and this and that. So you've got to step back, take a look at now how do I market that?
Yeah, that journey. Just so you bring it back to that B2C. The B2C world is done, and of course the biggest data miner in the world is Google. And when you have an account with Google, And when you have an account with Google, people don't realize it thinks for you. It can fill in where it knows how your thought process is. It knows the process. It has AI-based intent of where I'm going. If I had a search bar, it'll fill in the search. It already predetermines or anticipates what you're going to search for, right? These are other areas for the profile of that user, of the buyer, or whoever it is that comes to a website or comes to a platform, to navigate them easily to get to the ultimate result they want. But the biggest, I mean, it's so fascinating how far it's out there and how deep you can go, but into the distribution models, manufacturing, supply chain, and that supply chain, it's still, they don't understand, because I think the education is not there. And sometimes there's a understanding it. How is this working? What's it feeding to me? How is marketing getting this information? And then marketing feeding it to the sales, and sales understanding what to do with it. And the intent of, okay, contact this person. We see their journey. They found this data sheet, or they found this product. They were looking at it. They set, I can tell how much they were on there, how long they downloaded it. Why don't we contact them? And then with the CRM systems in place, which are smart as well, we have a smart CRM system as well that can give you all that data, and then the touch points, and to monitor with all the data analytics. The sales are doing the right job, marketing is doing the right job, everything is connected. And it's so powerful, but I think it's also a little overwhelming for a lot of people.
It is. I think it's overwhelming in terms that, because that wasn't my job originally. Yeah. You know, I'm a marketing guy, or I'm a data person. I'm a PR person. Well, that's all the same now. Yeah. I know that sounds weird, folks, but that's a great point. Talent set. So you got all this technology, and you're marrying it and bolting it together. You're getting a great set of information, and you're lucky enough to have it all kind of working. But I've got to have people to interpret it, right? And you've heard that, data scientists and, all these type of terms that have come forward about, I need people to make sense of all the data logs I have, right?
Yep.
So, with this new intelligence that you're gathering about things that are occurring on your site or digitally engageable with you, you just got to make the most of understanding, how can I take it all in and put it into a presentable, actionable, outcome. And that is another area that is conversationally bubbles up all the time. Listen, all of this, and the biggest hurdle is money. Oh my God, what's that going to cost me? What, you've already spent $7 or $8 million on that, and you're only pulling 20% of what you need out of that, functioning. So that's been another area we've had to help educate people with, and understand that, there's many ways to enter and advance yourself digitally, and you don't have to break the bank. You're not going to break the company. There's ways to do it in sequence or whatever. And that's been very fortunate for us, that, we've been able to find those easier entry points for people.
Through that tech stack journey and educating your clients and understanding through the process, you come to the point where sometimes they want to just put a Band-Aid on the current infrastructure they have, and let's not start from ground zero, and let's just build from where we are and build up, where you say these systems won't talk to each other for the future. Do you have a lot of those instances?
All the freaking time. Yeah. Are you kidding me? It's amazing. Say a distributor is not e-commerceable at the moment. Mm-hmm. I can't do e-commerce, and I'm sitting on WordPress.
Yeah.
And I got an okay site. I want to dress it.
Functions. Yeah.
Cholas, I need you to get you guys to dress it up a little bit. I got a little bit of money, and I want to be e-commerceable in 5 months. Oh, okay. And I think I've got this plugin available with WordPress that will allow that to happen. Mm-hmm. But they have no idea that every little add-on, when you start, dealing with certain these platforms, these add-ons start to mount up pretty quickly, right? And the plugins generally don't do all that you need to be done: certification, authenticity, and all the certificates, certifications that are needed. That's been an issue where people just want to minimally invest, but want the greater outcome. And we have to help people with that to understand, right? And there are ways to deal with it, but you have to educate them. Everybody has a set thing in mind in terms of, what they think it should cost. And in most cases, they don't understand the completeness of the investment that's needed. But I have to say again, if you move away from dependency on the big platform companies, I get in trouble if I mention names, but the big platform companies that you're a big enterprise, you've got it all built on this, but you now need to digitally advance further, and you find out that, okay, to do that, I'm married to this tech stack. I can't get out of it because it was cost me a fortune to bail out. So now I'm going to have to spend an additional fortune, fair amount of money that I did not plan on to add these other things on. And there's ways that we've had to find to work with different technology stacks to insert the more efficient way to get the outcome that you want. So you don't have to extend yourself beyond where you're comfortable with all the different plugins, right? So all of these things are new and nuanced when we have conversations. You can see this is not an easy conversation for anybody, right? And we've had to adjust and dynamically pivot to address all those and staff ourselves accordingly for that, right? On any given day, heck, I don't know, what our current staff is. It just keeps growing, right? I know it's north of 150 or 160 people.
Well, working with the Big Zeta team, I was also enlightened and understood how many people it takes to build each product or each platform to develop. There's so many people involved, and everybody has a talent or a skill set that's expertise in that area, right? There's multiple to build a platform. It doesn't take 2 or 3 people. Yeah, you can build it. One person could build a WordPress site. But to build infrastructure, to build a building, it takes a lot of different people with different skill sets to come in to build that try to building you want, how many floors you want, how deep you want, how many people you want to store, which data, put people, how many people, which information you want to put in it.
It's a great way to think. Yeah. And most of the time they don't want to furnish it after they build it. So you've got an empty building, right? Yeah. And I think that's a good analogy, so I think you hit it on right on. That's the truth, is that, you can't do this half-ass. When you go into to digitalize yourself or how digital transform yourself or build a digital presence, whatever the term is, define what that is internally. What does it mean to you? Mm-hmm. So we'll have those conversations. How do you go about it? Understand, how you're staffed, how you're orged, because those things will all dynamically change as you're digitally transforming yourself, on site. Right? So you have to think holistically. There's no excuse anymore to be surprised later. And we try to future-proof that, as much as we can. There's different platforms and things, to use, but everything we do, we take into consideration upfront to be able to future-proof. I know you'll need e-commerce later, Rob. Yeah. May not want to have it functional right now, but that should be built on a future-proof platform so that you can kick that in and flip. Correct. And we have to do that. And a lot of people don't want to have to do that. They get back to the money thing again, right? Oh, I can't spend that extra $1,000 to have that ready when I do need it a year from now. And I think that's starting to erode. And what I mean by that is that companies that have thought that way now are being penalized through the pandemic and the inability to make face-to-face calls. So they're being penalized, and those exposures are there. And I'll applaud this industry for waking up to that, and acknowledging that, whether it's large company or small. And I'm excited by that for people. There's just so much distance ahead of us that we can still travel, and we set the path ourselves. It's our road to determine.
I agree. And that really then takes me to that next part of the content marketing. Rehumanizing yourself with a human connection, or the content side of how to build content, since our industry is very product. It's all about the product. But again, humans do business with humans. Mm-hmm. And it's getting in front of there and building that brand of content. You can build the most beautiful website, but you have to also brand it and make content and put people that are there. And especially in this pandemic, the B2C has been there. People build brand off a person or personality. But now the biggest challenge is putting personalities and people in front of the brand to be synonymous and to relate exactly from the personal brand that aligns with the company brand, and they say, okay, I want to do business with Joe. Joe works for this great XYZ distributor, and I like Joe. You know, I didn't know much of the distributor, but I like Joe, and Joe's brand is good, and he gives big service, so I want to do business with Joe. And Joe just works for XYZ, but that model has come in because Joe can be the rep or the engineer or whatever he is to design engineer and represents that line. And these are things that I think in the last year, the model, the rep model, distribution model, even principal manufacturer has kind of been woken up. And to understand that. So what has changed? What have you seen? You just said that things are accelerating, people are doing that, but what is the biggest challenge for that rehumanization that you see?
The humanization, you mean as you digitally transform yourself, you know, you got to make that as humanistically relevant as possible, even though it's digitally being done.
Yeah, because pushing your sales forward, instead of pushing just the company brand, pushing the sales people forward as a brand as well. Because distribution pushes the salespeople forward. The main principal manufacturers can put distribution, but those all have reps. They have to push those reps forward.
So that's a couple different directions we can go. All right. So let me take care of the rep thing first, right? You know, I do know there's a momentum pushing, right, for component manufacturers that do have reps. They're looking and want the reps to be more proactive in their marketing efforts.
Yes.
And that means that reps that are going to embrace that have to do something with their website or their digital existence, which has been nothing more than, for the most part, a yellow page listing. You know, I got 6 lines, here are the States, and I'm kind of good, and you can call Sam or Tammy, they're the inside the sales, and there you go. That's all it is. I was having a conversation with some reps the other day that I said, do you have the authority? We talked earlier about this. Do you have the authority to utilize all of your component manufacturers' data set? Be it a data sheet, reference design, white paper, video, whatever. Oh, that's a good question. So it dawned on me that the reps haven't even thought about how far do they need to go now to have the customers actually find a value when I, as a rep, am not there, but you can certainly go to SC Inc. And you'll find everything you need about the 6 principles that you count on me about, right? So that's transformational. That's going to happen. And I think you're going to have a very small percent of reps that, again, it's about investment. So that'll start to, I think, become more of an issue. And they probably won't get any support from their manufacturers for the reps to go do that. They're going to have to start doing it on their own. And I think they can do that, and they should. But let's move to, I think, that humanization question that you had, you know, relative to, you know, the sites and content, right? Because content, remember the time when content was king?
Yeah, content.
Okay, duh, I get that. So content now is your ante. If you want to play, content will determine what your chances of being successful are. Looking at that content in its entirety and what you're trying to bring forward. You talked about if IBS represents this, the content structure deliverable that I have on site has got to be able to reflect that, right? Most sites aren't done to do that necessarily, in my opinion, be it a distributor or a manufacturer. It's probably a lot easier for a manufacturer to build out a content structure and relevance that's optimized and married to exactly what I do as a manufacturer. I build relays, I build semis, whatever it may be. Distributors have a harder time. You've got to find that identity that you want to fit in. Because you got 100 others that are doing the same thing you're doing. How do you find that? We were talking earlier to one of your guys, Matt, about video, product video. Product video is a really good way to personalize and humanize this digital existence. And I think DigiKey and Mouser do a really good job.
Yeah,
they do a great job on product video. And you need to be able to, and there's a few ways to do that the right way. We all understand the timing and everything. You know, can't have 12, 15, 20-minute video, although I think this broadcast will be, you know, an hour.
We're going to cut it up. Don't worry. I'm going to cut it.
No, we can do whatever.
Clips are, everybody's attracted to clips, but that clip leads to listen to the whole thing.
Yeah,
so
I don't get where people, you know, I listen to everything. I don't care. If I like it, if I like it. If I like it. So it's real talk of Joe Rogan for me is what works. But content now can be, there's ways to do content in a much more efficient manner. You can syndicate content and be able to bring it in, right? We're actually building out a syndication platform for content structure. We're beta with a few people right now, sizable. But you're going to be one of the first people to hear back from me like, hey, okay, we got this now. You need content. So this syndicated platform tech plugin is going to work great for you.
Well, when you come to me, it's like, here, have this data. Look at what we did. Look what's happening. Okay, jump on. Because at the end of the day, everybody wants to see, the data is, but people need to understand how to read the data.
When you mean data,
on the syndicate, off the process of syndication of where it's going through the channels, the channels that you're going through, how it's getting out there, the views, the content, the impressions, and these are the types of things that come into play. People want to see. It is a numbers game, but at the end of the day, the content market is also a consistency game. It's consistently showing up every day and being there. And the biggest challenge, I feel a lot of people have approached me since I've been doing this podcast again. Oh, how do you do it? What do you do? I put out a video. I put out 2 videos in the last 2 months, and I really didn't get anything off of it. I'm like, well, you're just putting? Look. Yeah. What's your goal? You think one video is going to bring in millions of dollars? It's also building because that one video, people don't know who you are.
Well, yeah.
Right? Who are you?
There's a lot of people that think they're... well, everybody must know me. Or
everybody must know. If I put a video, everybody's going to know that I am the king of this service or this product, so buy from me. But it's consistently showing up to build that brand and to be a credible, or as you say, it could be a thought leader or something into that brand that says, I'm building the visibility, he's likable, and I want to try, or he's credible. I'm going to give him some opportunity, and I I'm going to give him a shot. And but it's consistently showing up to do that. Mm-hmm. Putting 1 post or 2 posts or sharing a white paper or a spec sheet doesn't mean everybody in the world is going to come and to.
Why would they?
As a rep, come to you for the designs.
Yeah. Why would they? Unless you've made really strong efforts in trying to establish that brand equity, right?
Oh yeah.
And just like you've done with Real Talk.
Yeah.
You work hard at it. This is not easy. You got to love it.
Yeah.
And passionate about it. And even when you go with some of your participants that have joined you here at the table, I think I've watched maybe 10. I'll be honest, maybe 10.
That's good.
Yes, I watched one of mine, but I had to make sure it was okay. But the other 10, I'd say half of that 10 was relative to this industry. Yeah. The other 5?
Different industries, yeah.
Different industries, people that you've become acquainted or invited in, and all of here's the thing about content. We all share the same thing now. We all have ability to get as much content as we want, because it's there. We all have the ability to get it. And we also have the ability to have it posted, syndicated, curated, iterated upon. Mm-hmm. And the folks that have been doing that, recognize that for some time prior to COVID, are the ones that are much, much more efficient and proficient and are seeing returns. This is another area of conversation when you talk about, your digital transformation and your representation in brand. What's the messaging on my site? Where's that content has to be relevant. That's the first thing. And there's so much content that is so scattered.
Well, there is a lot of content, but it's also the human. Bring it back to the human. The human thing is being credible, being relatable. It's not all about business. People, I've been to many meetings, a weekend to 50% be personal, 50% is business, because we all relate to the same challenges we face. We share similar interests in some things outside the workplace, and we build a relationship.
Yeah.
And it's not about keep pushing product. There is a formula out there that people should be aware of and figure out their formula, like product, something more personal, something about or inspiring, or something sharing knowledge about in news, and then product. These are things you just don't go product, because people don't want people also interested in other things out there, supply chain news, industry news, the global, and just what's going on globally. A lot of challenges is politics. You could share some of those views, and not everybody's going to like it. but there are a lot of people that are going to really like it and then comment on it and start engaging with it. And into the LinkedIn world where I think we live in, that's really where our business is in. There's a lot of ghosters out there too. A lot of people just ghost it.
Yeah.
The social media world, the Facebooks, Instagrams, way more consumer. But you still have to be present, I think, in every area. But that's the world we live in. So pushing content through campaigns, through email campaigns, those drip campaigns, which I really don't know if they're as effective as they used to be. And the LinkedIn thing is building that brand. And today, as probably you get yourself, I get so many people trying to drop in, DM me, as we call it, direct message, Instagram, like send me private messages. They don't know me. They connect with me and they try to sell me instantly. That is, in my opinion, I would tell for everybody, that's the biggest fail. Don't get to know me. Get to know me. Find something about me. I am all over the webs. You can find everything about me. You can Google my name. I am everywhere with everything I do. At least find something relatable, thing that you like, and then start that conversation. Don't get into that, here, I do this product. I'm an investment company. I'm a product company. I sell this thing, or buy from me, or here's this, or capital funding, banking, whatever. But do you even know who I am?
So that's all about being prepared, right?
Yeah.
Prepping for that call, whatever it's going to be. Here's what I find interesting is that the prepping and understanding what's the need. What is Rob's need? I remember in my media days, to all the sales team, including myself as a salesperson, is that you need to identify the need. And then you need to validate that need from that customer is exactly what you believe it to be. And you don't know that until you do some investigation, try to find out. It's so easy now, right, these days, to find out everything about Rob. And you can start to assess, this is probably what they need. Do I fit in with that? Okay, now I'm ready to approach. Hey, Rob, saw this. Mm-hmm. You posted some things the other day. I'm sensing maybe you have this that could be a requirement. I know we don't know each other. I'd like to have an opportunity to see if my solution might help you. Please forgive me for reaching out through social, but I figured this would be a good way to do it. Especially on LinkedIn, I maybe do that 2 or 3 times a month. That's about it. Where I try to link in with somebody. If they've accepted, I always tell them thank you for accepting my invite. I don't use the pre-populated response. I try to make sure that I personalize it, right? And again, it's all digital tooling that allows me to personalize the opportunity. Pick up the freaking phone so we can talk, right? At the end of the day, that's what I want.
The call to action.
Yeah, I want that to happen. I don't even have to say, let's find time to talk. Mm-hmm. Just how I put it to them. The same thing happens on your content online, right? Mm-hmm. For your website. You can kind of start to create an automated version of that dialogue that you're typing, through a LinkedIn, like I just, gave an example, but you can do that automatically, programmatically on your site. And that's where you brought up, buyer journey persona, right? You also start to know now, because you got triggers. Oh, that's what Rob wants. He's been there now 3 times. Mm-hmm. I can automate a message back with an intent, understanding that that's what he was looking for. Maybe this will help you. Do it one more time, no more than 3, and you get feedback from a user because you've taken them and intersected their journey, and you think what they're looking for. You've just hit a home run. That value of that lead that says, Rob, call me. Yeah. That's, and I think all of that is starting to come much more forward.
I agree, and I think leadership has a big
what do you mean by leadership? You mean the C-suite?
The C-suite has a big awakening to understand, because the C-suite executives tell, okay, we need more sales. So sales go sell this product. But the challenge is the education of how to sell it in a digital world and build the presence, because people don't buy that product. So what their game is, the game of numbers. Everybody says, okay, I contact more people, I can have more leads. But in the days, just say the buyers are the quality, getting a qualified lead, understanding, hey, this person came to my website and looked at through this bot. I have a AI bot. They found it. They put their name in there. But it's also got, do you instantly call them back because of it? Or do you do 60-second search to find out, hey, where's this guy coming from? Who is he? Look him on LinkedIn. Get some profile about him. And then when I call him.
Basic sales, right?
But you'd be surprised that today it's not. A lot of the, I would say from that level, there's a lot of pressure to push down and not really educate the process of the sales journey of building relationship.
All right, let me jump in here.
Yeah.
C-suite, oh man, is that hard, right? So, meaning, no offense to the C-suite out there, right? To all my friends, but end of the day, the message that comes from your subordinates or team that are challenged to go digitalize the world that you exist in, I have to create arguments for them to defend, for them to go to you to ask for the money, and all you want predominantly is, okay, is that going to increase my sales? Prove it. Yeah. I get it. But I think the openness now, what's changed for us during the pandemic, right? We have to create solid, arguable points, defendable, for a VP or a director or a C title that's going to position what we need to do next to the other C levels, if you will. So we have to write up and approach things that are defendable, that make sense. Because most of the people that are going to their boss, it's been the age-old investment easy. Oh, I'll get more leads, Rob. Okay, good. How much you need? $1,000 a month more. Great, more leads. That's a big different conversation between I need $25,000 to upgrade my website, and the boss says, okay, what's going to happen at the end? Most of the people that are trying to defend that don't have the wherewithal and understanding what it will do. And that's okay. That's okay. Again, consumer world, they got that nailed. So we're having Tyler Crockett, for example, is our director of product and marketing, right? And Tyler understands, how to craft and help you understand, you do this, this is the outcome that will ultimately probably happen, right? And do so in such a way that when you're presenting to your management, these are the proof points that you need to do. And I greatly appreciate the honesty of people right now. It's like, hey, Cholas, okay, but I don't know how to position that. And these are some pretty smart people. They've been marketers their whole life. But now that you're looking for a major investment, is it CapEx or is it IT investment? What the hell is it? Because it's not marketing, which it should be looked at, should be in the sales and marketing, should be in all of their budgets. Right. And so that now is having to, to validate that and give them, ammunition, more arrows in the quiver when they go to, try to, ask for this demand to be, approved. There is the issue with technology stack and where things are moving that, allows you the opportunity to reduce personnel in some cases. And I don't have this as frequently, but I will say 6 months ago, it was frequent conversations that people calling us to help them in whatever digitally. The question would be asked, do you think this can replace man hours? Yeah. So, people. Yeah. Sure, it could.
Honest question. Yeah.
Sure. But you also need talent sets that replaceable in some other.
That can maximize the system that we're trying to implement.
Because you don't have those people, which is another reason why, we get outsourced too all the time is, for monthly service agreements to help them because they don't have the devs. They don't have the engineering talent. They may not have the IT talent exclusively to do all that needs to be done.
But we'll come back to that point of the leadership standpoint, leading by example, leadership leading, the C-suite people leading by example, understanding the foundation, understanding the fundamentals of process. And then, of course, they do tell their team to execute it. But do you think a lot more C-suite people are now open to understand the fundamentals instead of saying, okay, this is great, I love this, and then telling people to execute it? Or instead of understanding it, leading it, showing people, okay, this is good, not just from marketing, putting themselves out there, leading branding, and also understanding the fundamentals of the software or whatever they're trying to change of the tech stack they're trying to bring in. Do you see people start shifting?
So I'm going to ask you a question.
Yeah.
How many C levels do you know? Let's say presidents or CEO that actually can think through that and be able to pull it together and articulate to a team?
It depends what industry.
Well,
in our industry, very few. Yeah. Very, very few.
And that's not being offensive. And I know it sounds, like you're beating out the C-suite. The C-suite drives a lot of this business, that we have to exist in terms of whether we're approved or not. Here's what I do know. I would suspect in the next foreseeable future, a lot of the folks coming in to head companies up, whether manufacturer or distributor, are going to, at that C level, are going to have to be possess different talent sets and experience. You've got to have that. You can't just create another C title. Chief Marketing Officer, Chief Digital Officer, Chief Revenue Officer, Chief Customer Officer. I don't even know what that stuff means anymore. In fact, I don't even look at titles when I'm talking to somebody because I can pretty well figure out whether that title fits you or not, or that a title does not, you don't possess anything that reflects that title. And I think that's getting more refined. I think more CEOs that come in or get elevated are going to be people that have a talent set that's broader than what it is. Maybe an engineer at one point. Okay, great. Do you understand sales and marketing? Do you understand the current digital positioning that you're existing in? What is that future proof down the line digitally? Will I be able to transcend into a digital e-commerce entity at some point? We have to do that. What's it going to take to get there and understand? Those are thought processes and talent sets that and they don't need to be in-depth engineering or IT or marketing, but have a general knowledge, working knowledge. And I think you have a lot of talented people, guys and gals, that can be moved into that position.
And I think that as in our industry, that succession is happening. It's slowly happening, but in the next 5 to 10 years, it's going to be a massive shift, which will hopefully bring that fundamentals to the teams and to these companies to be able to really transition and have a different perspective of leadership and the process. Just like you said, they come from, even we talked about your son. Your son has a lot of skills as he's learned, even though he had one, as I said, he invested himself for a degree, but he's learned the whole set from data, understanding. These are things that the new generations coming in, they have a lot of skills. They're not just focused on one thing.
No, you're right. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you got me going on this one. So we talk a lot about the new entries, the millennial. Yeah. Let's get past this millennial nonsense. It's new, younger people coming in, whatever age that may be, right? We passed millennial X and Y and Z. It's here already. And that's part of the problem, is that it's already here, and the people, those customers, Mr. Manufacturer, Distributor, that are visiting your site exponentially are increasing in the new persona. Do you know who that person is? Could you have a way to start to detect what they're doing that's different than 50% of the other visitors to your site? And that reflects this new entity, right? This new emergence of talent that are digitally savvy. And this is not rocket science, right? My customers are becoming more digitally savvy. Okay.
Turn on your camera.
Duh, right? So therefore, is my business model set up to deal with that?
I mean, that was the basics of it, the digitalization. Right. The number one thing I think we all had within the industry is turn the camera on, guys. We're on a call. Everybody is an executive or a leader, but half the cameras are off and not showing up for it. And that still today, I think, is still getting understood, because everybody work from home is switching to this a little bit, work from home is very easy. Everybody works from home most of the time. A lot of people have this. So building a space or a camera or having a little light and investing in that to show up to the meetings, being prepared, is fine. And you look, and the other things, I look weird on camera. Well, you look the same in person than you do on camera. So I don't know what, you have to get over that. We're not. Yeah,
I agree. I think we confuse ourselves most of the time.
Well, I mean, we do confuse ourselves.
We do. There's so much overthinking. And I think that's part of the digital transformation. That goes on out there. People just overthink this stuff. Come on, lighten up, folks. It's not as complicated. And by the way, the technology's made it a lot easier. So you're worrying about stuff that you don't have to worry about anymore.
I mean, I 100% agree. 100% agree. But now I want to shift and ask you some questions. Pick your mind a little bit about what's going on. I mean, I know you did a little thing on the ERA for onshore offshoring.
Oh, yeah. That was great.
So, that was great. I wanted to pick your mind a little bit, elaborate a little bit about that. And what is your thoughts in the onshoring, offshoring? What's happening, supply chain disruption? Starting with onshoring, offshoring first, and then we can get to full break of what's going on in the industry.
Well, I think first of all, what I've been able to learn from people my contacts on onshoring, offshoring, and all of that, back to America, all that. I thank all of you, men and women that help me. That network that you can establish to get information is just crazy good. I think the first point is, take a look at what happened. I think Wisconsin with Foxconn.
Yeah.
Go from 13,000 promised at the end of 2020. Now it's 1,300.
Well, I don't know if it's even going to happen still, but I saw something today.
Yeah.
It doesn't look, the site looks not going to, it's just a sign now.
No. If we had more people that would challenge us, I think like Musk.
Yes.
So,
Starship City.
Listen, I'm taking his to Mars. I'm not taking Virgin Atlantic. It's not going to happen, right? Any event. So what's happening? I learned a lot during that session that I did. So key points: the notion of onshoring, bring back to America, is kind of a silly concept, because that's not going to happen exclusively. We are dependent, other than, we can't do it all here in the U.S. Okay, so we find ways around the whole China thing. So I think it's come around now that, look at the good things. With the newest administration, should it happen or not, Intel and the rest of them that are building and committing to dollars invested in semiconductor production. Great. That wouldn't have happened because of the pandemic, and it wouldn't have happened unless China did what it did, or does what it does, or does what we allowed it to do.
Yes.
So the awareness of what we have allowed to do to disrupt a truly efficient, proficient supply chain. Well, now we got to think through it again, and that's good. Okay, we have to think through it again. So that leads to lack of dependence on foreign entities. I think one of the data points during that I got. Was foreign development funds, right? All last year. Yeah. You had two countries, that were foreign invested for development, for manufacturing. That was India and China. All the other major countries fell below, and it was negative investment. That's crazy, right? So that onshoring to drive, or the ability to drive investment in the U.S., I think will uptick. I do. We're already seeing it in some cases, right? So I think what we see also with the supply chain, on the semiconductor side, right? With what the automotive companies and the other subcontractors to that market, what they've brought forward now in terms of off the board. Let's get off the board for a minute. All the packaging material and such around the enclosures of the electronic stuff that we all make, right? A lot of that's not sourceable in the U.S. Yeah. You could have all the components you want, but do you have the other related products? So I think that will become more of an opportunity in the U.S. I think Mexico certainly has some of that, right? So I think the intelligence gathering for supply chain knowledge has dramatically increased. The ability to look at beyond just lead times. It's like we talked earlier. So we have to understand what's behind that lead time. Environmentally, right? Socially, politically, all these things come into play. And, companies like Jabil, when Jabil did their control tower, right? And I know there's others that do some wonderful things to bring all the data sets in to understand that effective supply chain. So these things are now much more relevant today. Another great example is, I just had a conversation the other day. Look at the floods or the lack of water in Taiwan.
Yeah. The drought.
Who thought? Yeah. I bet you less than 5% of this industry realized that the amount of water that it takes to build semiconductor.
People don't realize that. I had Robert Quinn came on, and he educated us, enlightened us a lot about that. Water is a necessity for any production.
Oh yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, for anything.
Yeah,
anything. Yeah. So the awareness of these things now are so much critical. Why? Because of what COVID caused, and so now we've got to look deeper and get smarter about it. It's always been there to get smart about it. Now we're forced to do it. So I think that's very positive. I think the other thing I've sensed on this onshoring is the business modeling for some distributors that I've talked to. They probably have a greater awareness than I gave them credit for to understand what they're up against supply chain. I think there's an awareness that is very serious right now about the supply chain functionality, or how it's built, than I've heard in 10 years.
Yeah, I mein, I think the pandemic really accelerated that because of the shutdown of logistics.
Yeah.
And that, meaning like people realize our industry is disrupted now, but we had a supply chain disruption just in PPE, getting products to people, logistics, getting cars. Everybody was at home. There was a van shortage for Amazon, all the delivery logistics, that because we were dependent on travel by certain methods, but especially commercial airlines were down 60 to 70%. People don't realize half of the logistics in the world travel by commercial airlines. It's not just UPS and FedEx and there's planes out there. There is a lot of that. There's a lot of these things for supply chain that completely disrupted. Like, wait a minute, we have to rethink this. This everything's broken. Everything is broken. This is not sustainable. This is not sustainable.
I think everything it's either broken or has the potential to be broken, right? You're never going to have a perfect system, but it's certainly, to your point, right? When you go from airlifting product in, getting it within 2 weeks from date of order versus shipping it in, God forbid you go through the Panama Canal or go through
Suez Canal.
Rather, I stand corrected. Look at that disrupted. Or when you go to Long Beach and you see 100,
ships out there.
Yeah, waiting to get ported, and there's no room. Yep. There's no trucks, right? So all of that is forced. The vulnerability of the supply chain, wow, that was scary, everything that happened during the last 12 months. And we're not out of it yet, but I see a lot of positive work towards intelligently working on how to correct that and find the other LCRs. We were talking earlier, you and I, and Mike over here, we were talking about Vietnam, right? Yeah. Vietnam, it's a great LCR. I hope LCRs like Vietnam and maybe Malaysia. Philippines is already there, but it's not a manufacturing heavy base. But these are being, I think, explored much more efficiently now, with the notion of I've got to remove myself from dependency on China. And it's all about China.
It's a hard thing to say, but we'll never break that dependency on China. There will be some goods there.
I don't think we should.
No, we shouldn't. The only thing is if they stay within compliance of IP, that's the thing. They keep breaking those barriers. That they just need to stay in the compliance and everything. But that's a whole other subject in itself. But moving forward, the onshore, offshoring, I think a lot of people are a little more educated that, okay, we can only onshore so much. We can't onshore everything. We can only onshore so much here. You're right. The challenge also is because we still have these tariffs in place. You can't people can onshore, but they realize there's another tariff that's involved because all the products coming from China, the metals, the products, they still have to pay a tariff. So for them to send it to Mexico but Mexico right now has a supply chain disruption because they don't have enough capacity. There's not enough supply chain. To set up a factory, you need a supply chain around you for all the products.
Look at the Flextronics campus in Guadalajara.
Yeah.
There's a lot of constraint on supply movement. Even the implant stores. Maybe you're better off if you were a supplier and you had that implant store, already installed. So that's minor to help things. But it's across the board. I think also let's talk about talent for people for a minute. Okay. Everybody, how many people want to be a supply chain person or purchasing person? Oh
what is supply chain person?
I don't know what it is.
Supply chain management. But a lot of people are popping up these days with that skill. And
it's a different skill set. Yeah. This just magnified it, 100 times. Yeah. It just magnified it 100 times. To find that talent set. Yeah. So, those, I don't know where we're going to get it. Yeah. Hopefully. We'll find that attraction, so it'll come in.
Yeah. No, overall, that supply chain break, semiconductors, the shortage is happening. And it's not just semiconductors, it's all materials across the board with building materials, wood, it's 4 times the price, building homes, the shortage of home. And of course, the stimulus, people don't realize the stimulus is to create stimulus. They're spending. When you got $4 trillion coming into a market in a year, where do you think the money is going to go to? And there's a lot of spending out there. A lot of people are coming post-pandemic, spending, they had a lot of money saved for vacations they never went on. They want to do home improvements. They want to build. They want to move because they don't like the state they're in because of taxes or other politics they're in. And that's causing a massive supply. And it affects everything because digitalization of everything's IoT, everything's connected. We want to build a new home. We want everything to be All has digitalization in it. We want to have all these fancy lights. We want to have all these switches. We want to have cool audio systems. These are all areas. Comes to cars. People don't realize cars used to have $100 semiconductors in them, or maybe 200. Now it's like almost $1,000 of semiconductor. That's just for combustion cars. You got to look at EV cars. That's just combustion related, and the sensors that go into that. And we're just an uptrend through the computing, and everything is laptop now, through our handhelds. The trajectory, because you've been around this industry, 2000, the UI2K, we went through the dot-com boom, e-commerce boom, and it crashed. But I don't see, I could be wrong, I don't see this crashing, because that upsurge of demand, digitalization, and transforming everything into a fully digital world of how we operate.
It's two personal guys offering our thoughts on that.
That's my
I agree with you. I don't see how we cannot have significant growth. Well, just look at 2020. If you're a distributor that did not grow in 2020, at least towards the tail end, or this first quarter,
or first Q1, if you didn't grow in Q1, or the bookings are out the roof. It's just billing now.
Yeah. I think you need to step back as a model and figure out why I'm not participating, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's crazy that, first, people did not expect that we're not going to grow. There's too pent up demand. That's just my personal opinion.
We all opinionated of all the data and the vision that I see that the world is changing. Having a lot of these thought leaders on the podcast talking through. I said the NVIDIA one just it opens your mind. Like, wow, where are we doing?
Yeah, how many people think about NVIDIA? That they basically own the game market, right? The video market.
And now they're going into automotive. All Mercedes from 2024 are all going to be, the whole infotainment system is going to be NVIDIA. They're going to build the whole infotainment, so it's all connected and computing with each other. The new EQS, if you guys haven't seen, that's all NVIDIA.
You think about, we talked earlier about brand identity, right? Let's talk about NVIDIA for a minute. You go to any gamer, it's worth their weight. Yeah. And they're building, a gaming machine. We talked earlier about it. It's got to be NVIDIA. I'm not going to take something else in there. It's not going to work.
The GPUs,
and I'll wait. You can't even get it. You can't even get a video card now, right? From NVIDIA, it's
if you want, you're going to pay 10 times the price.
To the roof.
Yeah, 10 times the price.
They've built that identity alignment, right? And they've done a great job with that. I remember some of the media guys all complain about NVIDIA doesn't spend any money in media, yet they captured an entire gaming global industry. Well, how do you think they did that? They aligned themselves with relevance to that community, understood the community, identified it, and aligned their offering specifically to that intent of need that person wanted. Mm-hmm. Boom, boom.
And it's all within you just said a community. That's a big, powerful thing of community of the gamers that built that transition. And then it just starts spreading, because it just starts spreading from 2000, from Jensen, who created just the first GPU in it. He's like, okay, we'll create GPUs and create graphics processing. And who knows that graphics processing could be used for full computing. You don't even need a microprocessor. A CPU, they can be used and replaced. But if you have a different, as I said, a different ecosystem, you can use the full GPUs. You don't need a CPU, and GPUs are being used for supercomputing now. Not all super, but CPUs are still there. Don't get me wrong. CPUs are just as powerful. They're just different infrastructure. And these are things that we can, go down, and it's getting so fascinating with the usage of people. All right, data center, everything cloud. We all talk cloud. People are right. Where is the cloud? There are massive data centers with thousands of servers and racks that are holding our information, storing it. Our podcast goes into the cloud. It's stored in these big systems, and the usage is just going higher and higher. And there's more storage. There's more need.
I mentioned to you earlier. You need to get Bob Evans on here.
That's next. Bob Evans, if you're listening to this, we'll send him this clip. We got to come on.
Yeah, Bob, I'm going to call you. I'm going to call you anyhow. So, but I think I learn a lot about what the cloud is and what it's becoming. Mm-hmm. It's very complicated. There's a lot going on. AWS, and Azure. Okay, you got that. But there's 10 players. 5 own the clouds. They own the sky. Say 5, that really own the sky. But where they're going in hybrid cloud and all the things that are changing in cloud that affect the organization enterprise cost. We have to deal with this all the time, whether somebody is on-prem or off-prem.
Yeah.
What do you prefer? You know, and then when they go off-prem into the cloud, it's amazing how many of them don't understand what they need to know about that before they do that trigger, right?
Well, we had a similar thing. We had 20 servers here, and my 2017 was my initiative. We got to move everything off-site. We have 90% off-site. We still have a couple servers here, well, domain local servers. But we also had to learn that process. Where are we putting it? The cost of it, because the cost makes sense now, is having hardware and having it stored somewhere, and but also accessibility, especially if you're doing business in other parts of the region. How can you access it? Is it just as fast? Do you have latency time?
Well, and security.
And security time. So these are a lot of the knickknacks, things that you can depth when you get into it, but it's fascinating that how it has changed to, I would say, if you're not in the cloud, because you need for our industry, any customer comes off, we need a business continuity plan.
Yeah.
They're going to say, if this place burns down, your warehouse is gone, what happens to all the data on the servers here? They'll audit, like, well, we can't do business with you because you have no contingency plan.
Oh, I doubt very many publicly talk about their disaster recovery plans, right? And how
I think the pandemic really exposed a lot of that.
I think they did, you know, and I think a lot has been hidden.
Yeah,
I do. I got to hand it to, you know, the Japanese semiconductor manufacturers. You know, they know what it means to recover. They know what has to be done.
But they're having a lot of issues still.
They are.
A lot of fires and a lot of random things that are happening some reason. I don't know why. Not just the earthquakes or tsunamis. They got fires now too.
And that didn't help much. That was Renaissance, I think it was, that had their issue. So that, you know, you can't have, and that gets back to supply chain, right?
Yeah.
So when you've got, you know, specific industries and roules that are codependent on one or two people, you know, 3 or 4 people, and you get one disruption.
I mean, people know Renesas. I mean, the automotive industry is handicapped right now because Renesas.
Totally, that's right.
And where is your BCP plant? I mean, you could have multiple plants in Japan if you don't want to put in another site, but you can move capacity over and just lose maybe a couple weeks, not months.
You know, and this gets me on the. Let's shift to stay on the people thing for a minute. But I think about, you know, look at the conversation we've been having, right? You have to have those kind of conversations like this openly, you know, with your customer, right? You know, be it an engineer or supply chain, it doesn't really matter, but let's say engineering, you know, and be able to start to uncover in all the things that are affecting that simple, I just want to design this box and I need the smaller footprint. Is that really the entire story?
Yep.
Is there more that's affecting this for that decision to be in that direction? And I think that gets to this understanding of a salesperson that can get off board versus always on board, meaning on the board versus off the board, and get into all the other implications around that decision for the onboard component. I don't know a lot of salespeople. I certainly can't do it. I try, you know, to understand. You want to buy that FPGA and it goes here, and for that reason, I get that. But there's like 10 other areas that if I don't ask, I'll never know that are going to affect that. And that's in person. What about digitally? Can you do that digitally? Yeah, you can. Same thing. Same thing. And I think that becomes back to the content structure to try to humanize as much as possible that experience. I think that's important.
Well, man, we've covered a lot of topics.
We have.
We've gone over, as I said, if we were going to go off this, we're going to go off the mic and
two cups worth.
2 cups.
So it's
but
all good.
Again, Steve, I really think these conversations are kind of priceless. I would love you to come back, maybe quarterly updates, what's going on, Big Zeta.
I appreciate it. And you had no agenda when we got to this, and I appreciate that.
Well, I do have it in mind. I'm a, you know, I have a little bit of a memory. I can still remember certain things. I knew certain topics I want to discuss with you about, and because also I learn, and it's, you know, I pick your mind a little bit.
So do I.
Pick your mind a little bit, but I really thank you for coming on, and I can't wait to see you again soon. And we get out of this thing. We're kind of post-pandemic vaccinations.
I'm vaccinated 100%. So that's a good thing. It's why I'm here again.
We'll probably see EDS. You're going to do EDS this year?
Of course, going to do EDS.
Back to Vegas is open.
Yeah, I'll see everybody at EDS. I think that's, you know, it's a good way to sign off. Is that see everybody at EDS and Remember, Big Zeta's always here to help you,
Yeah.
so give me a shout.
He's the man.
Give
Call
me a
Big
call,
Zeta.
whatever
Yeah.
you need.
All right. Thanks.
Cheers,
buddy.
everybody.
Take care.